So the other day I go to the shopping mall, something that always gives me a lot of anxiety, not necessarily because there's a lot of people, but because some of those people are people I'd ideally like to avoid. So I'm walking along and then all of a sudden, I spot Dragon Quest XI. So, quick, what do? Spider-Man on PS4. Quick, pretend like we're having a conversation. Last thing I want is to get caught up in a long conversation with that game that could take hours off of my life. When it comes to video game series that you avoid, there's a whole bunch of different reasons you could have for this. Being that maybe you just don't like the series, but perhaps more fascinating are the series that you avoid that you think you might actually enjoy. In fact, in some cases, you know you'd enjoy them. But hold on a second, if you like something, then why would you avoid it? We're not talking about schoolyard sweethearts where you pretend not to like somebody even though you actually do. We're talking about video games, as we tend to do around here. Well, here's the thing. Some games take a long time to play through, and seeing as a lot of you are adults where free time comes at a premium, some of these long play times it takes to get through certain games just simply scares the ever-loving bejesus out of you. Plus, even if some games maybe aren't that long by themselves, the series that they're a part of could be. And yeah, sure, for some series you don't have to play every single game in them, but you might think to yourself, well, if I'm gonna get into this series, then I might as well get into this series. Yeah, we all know that old song and dance. You come across a game that looks good, and so you think to yourself, I wonder if there's any other games in this series. So you look it up, and lo and behold, there's 28 games in the series. Oh, 28 games in the series to play, 28 games to play. You play a game, and what have you got? 27 more games to play, 27 games in the series to play, 27 games to play. You play a game and then you remember there's a few more games that are sort of considered part of the series, sort of not, but enough that you still want to play them. 30 games in the series to play, 30 games in the series to play, 30 games to play. All right, that's enough of that. You get the point. Committing to certain game series can feel like exactly that, a major commitment, ranking right up there with some of your bigger life choices. Yeah, so what did you get up to this past year? Well, I got married, changed careers, moved to a different country, but perhaps biggest of all, decided I was going to play all the Final Fantasy games. Then there's the games that suck up a bunch of your time that you don't even enjoy. There's a double whammy for you, but maybe the game just has some sort of addictive quality to it that keeps you coming back for more. And eventually you get to the point where you just think, you know what? I need to just stay away from this series. In fact, quick little story for you. So back in the day, I would play StarCraft on PC. That's right, the original StarCraft. And what I would do, I don't know why, I would turn all the cheats on and every day after school just play StarCraft for hours on end. Until one day I had this realization where I thought, wait a second, I'm not having fun. So what did I do? Turn the cheats off, right? Nope, I turned the computer off. I said, no more. I do not trust myself with this game. And I went on ahead and did my homework. So there's a tip for the kids. If you want them to do their homework, just force them to play StarCraft with all the cheats turned on for 3 hours. That'll get the old number 2 pencils out. Wait, kids still use pencils to do math, right? Alright, but then what about the series you just flat out don't like that you avoid? And what I find interesting here is that it's one thing to not like a series, but it's another thing to intentionally go out of your way to make sure you avoid a series. I mean, I've never heard anybody say, yeah, you know those Mr. Nuts games? I make sure to steer clear of those. What would be more likely is that they just never talk about them, or heck, maybe they never even thought to play them in the first place. But bring up something like the Legend of Zelda series and you can be guaranteed that anyone will have a full reason and explanation ready to go for why they either play them, dabble in them, or avoid them entirely. I think that this is because for any major series that gets a lot of hype and buzz, most people will at least try the game, and then if it doesn't work out, they remember that. And so anytime another game in the series gets suggested or a new game comes out and it has high reviews, they go, oh, not this time, you're not gonna fool me again. Or maybe you think, all right, I'll give this series one more chance, but that's it. And then another game gets suggested and you're like, all right, this time I mean it. One more chance and then that's it. Well, I don't know how many chances you give a series, but at some point you've had enough. Maybe it's after one game, maybe it's after 10 games, I don't know. What can make this tricky though is that some games and series completely differ from each other. I mean, I mentioned the Final Fantasy series earlier. They pretty much all have totally different stories. And then maybe some games are on different hardware and so they have different mechanics, or maybe they're years apart and so things have changed a lot. And then some series will even change genres from game to game. Panzer Dragoon Saga, you dirty, dirty dog. Then of course there's the games that people avoid because they're just too difficult. One great example of this would be the Ghosts and Goblins games. You might think, yeah, I love the idea of fighting against the undead as a dude in his boxers, but problem is that dude in his boxers turns into a skeleton way too often for my liking. I should also point out that seeing as a lot of us are retro gamers, there could be some series we don't really play or straight up avoid because they're typically thought of as more modern series. Like, probably not gonna catch me playing any Assassin's Creed games anytime soon. Something else that a lot of us are is collectors, and so there might be certain series that we avoid because, well, we don't really have much of a choice with how much they cost, seeing as some games in some series can just be as expensive as deviled eggs. Bad example, deviled eggs really aren't that expensive, but they are awfully devilish, aren't they? Alright, but with all that said, it's time for this video's question, which of course is, what's a game series that you avoid? And remember, be nice when you talk about it because it's probably a series that somebody else really loves. So, for that and anything else you might want to say, leave a comment down below and I will see ya in the next video.
He's the retro bird, yeah, and he's talking about video games. He's the retro